Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. For those of you who are just listening, I'm not having a seizure. I'm trying to do the Karine, Pierre, Luke, John. I was trying to act like what is her name, Josh? Before we start the show, what is her name? Karine,
Karine
Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre.
Yeah, geez. Anyway, what a disaster this week has been for her. I almost feel sorry for her, but I don't, because I feel like somebody that can lie like that and is okay with lying like that is kind of a special kind of turd. Anyway, we're gonna go through this. The White House is absolutely melting down. Pandemonium. I got tons of clips today. Tons of clips. We've got these daily briefings where the media has turned on Joe Biden. I think it's interesting, and I think we have to get into this because have they turned on Joe Biden, or this is a very confusing thing to talk about, because I feel like they haven't really turned against Joe Biden. They were never pro Joe Biden. They were just pro the man running the show behind the curtain. I think we always knew. I think the media always knew that Joe was not running the show. They were just facilitating the hype behind Joe. This is so hard to talk about without, like, as an intro. I apologize. I promise I will make this more coherent and a little bit better articulated when I get into the show. Also, we have to talk about the jeez. So this whole Parkinson's thing is a debacle. This is a very hard intro, Josh. Very hard intro today, because it's like, as I intro these things, I want to start talking about them right now. So let's just do this. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Parkinson's thing, the neurologist thing, the debate thing. We've got to cover Gaza war crime thing that's coming out right now, which is really big news this week. I guess the news is trying to bury it. But some things are coming to light. Here I go again, right? Just talking about the whole thing instead of just introing it. But 2 weeks ago, they came out about Putin being a war criminal for bombing hospitals. And then we also, in this 2 weeks later, have Israel admittedly bombing hospitals. And the media is having to kind of cover and backtrack on that. So we're jumping into it. Just tons of things to jump in today. Today's show brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack and factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. There's just too much for an intro. Take it away, Joshua. Let's go.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on Sunday.
This is about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Just text messaging conservative Anthony. Might pop in here in a little bit. That intro was hard. Maybe one of the hardest intros I've ever had to do. I always say that, I mean, I've said this like every week. We have a really big show to you. We have a lot of things to cover. I'm not kidding, though. The time that we live in, the era that we live in, if we're only doing political news once a week, so much political news is happening that it's almost making the show, like, we should make this show like 2 hours. I would want to kill myself, honestly, if I had to talk about politics for 2 hours. So it's a lot to squeeze in, even in an hour. It's so jam-packed. And like I said in the intro, even introing it, I makes me want to talk about the things in detail. And I know I can't do that with a less than 2-minute intro. But we're working on it, guys. C- student at best. Good morning, Joshua from Deadleg Media joining us today. Like I said, conservative Anthony might be here. We got a lot of people in the live chats. Want to catch up with them real quick. Loren, David J, Armory Knight, Guns and Cafe, Michael Hendricks, Wayne. I love that. I love the name Wayne. Like, it's just Wayne. There's no like John Wayne or any. It's just Wayne. I like that. Will Cray says, yeah. Okay, so I will count on you guys in the chats today, because I think that there's a lot of things that you guys can chime into and a lot of things I'm going to comment on. If you are in the live chats, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with a friend, notify it. 99.9% of our fellowship comes from listeners. We ask you guys to give us a 5-star rating and review. We do 5 free shows a week. Also building this massive first responder network so that you guys never have to tune into mainstream radio ever again, giving you things just the tip, giving you enough to do your own research on what interests you, breezing through it in kind of like a trustworthy way to let you know at least that we're going to be transparent about what's fact, what's opinion, how we feel about things. And then we're going to give you enough resources to find these stories on your own and to do your own research. But it is important as a first responder that you are somewhat in the know. It's very irresponsible, especially in today's era, to just be like, I don't do politics. Those days are over. I don't want to hear you say that, because what it says is I'm too fucking lazy to catch up. Right now, I don't want to say our freedom and democracy hangs in the balance, because that's hyperbolic. But we are in pending World War III that your children are going to have to fight based on who you vote for. I'm not saying like Trump versus Biden. I'm talking local elections, the things that are going on in your local schools, the things that are going on in your local government, the things that are going on a broader scale, the things that are happening in your city. This all comes from you paying attention and bringing awareness and light to it. You should be talking about this at the barbecue. You should be talking about this at the bar. We should be bringing politics to the table, because it's such an important time that we live in. It's not a game anymore. We are literally on the heels of nuclear war. Just recently, we've had some Ukrainians caught trying to hijack an airplane with nuclear warheads coming out of Russia, allegedly, which is a really big deal, because how do you think Russia is going to retaliate? Also, the UK and Europe, the European Command has put out for the first time since I don't know, it was like World War II or something like that. Fact check me on this. They are like Code Red Charlie, which means they are expecting an attack. This is like one of the highest alerts you can have. Some of the bases around here have hit that for like a day period, but they are talking about attack that is imminent. Here, this is from the New York Post, is U.S. military bases in Europe on high alert over possible terrorist threat, reports say. Now, if you go on to read this, now that was from June 30th. If you can find me one from yesterday is now that it is imminent, that they don't know where, but they have information that alludes to the fact that there is a attack coming, and they don't know where. And so they have updated this threat level to Charlie. Charlie is orange, red is Delta, meaning there are attacks, right? Red is Delta, Charlie is orange, meaning it's imminent, like it's coming. It's like a red light, green light, right? Green light means we're free to go. You're good to go. Everything's good. Yellow means like there's a stop coming, so be prepared. And then red is like stop, like it's happening, like it's time to stop. So if I have to break it down, Big Bird to Cookie Monster style, this from CNN Politics. Intelligence on Russia's sabotage threat prompted increase in security U.S. military bases in Europe. Scroll down. Let me read some of this. U.S. military bases across Europe were placed on heightened state of alert last week for the first time in a decade after the U.S. received intelligence that Russian-backed actors were considering carrying out sabotage attacks against U.S. military personnel and facilities. Multiple sources familiar with the matter told CNN the intelligence the U.S. received suggested that Russia had included U.S. bases and military personnel as options to attack via proxies. The source said similar plots have been carried out or disrupted across Europe in recent months. Now, I got a phone call from a military buddy serving in the Germany area. He says this is a big deal. He says that they are on full lockdown, full preparedness and readiness, and they are just hunkering down for they don't know what. And he was not specific that it was from Russia. He just said that they said a terrorist attack was imminent and pending. They don't know when and where. They just know one is coming. That's pretty fucking scary. Again, this is a war. Your children, first responder, sitting in your police car with your 10-year-old, your 9-year-old, your 13-year-old at home. This is a war they will be fighting, rest assure you. And it is going to be over more nefarious than not circumstances. Going back to Burisma, going back to Ukraine, going back to the Afghanistan pullout, what brought us here in the first place. And I've heard this before. I've heard this, especially from my dad, where it's like, well, I don't think the government's that well coordinated and planned. I don't think they're that coordinated and planned. I mean, that's a very cheap way of looking at this, knowing that they pulled out of Afghanistan unexpectedly and for little to no reason. We hadn't lost a troop there in 2 years. There was stability and peace in the area. They pull out, and one of the most infamous retreats ever, where Milley left all of their equipment behind, only to start a war in Ukraine months later, only to find ourselves in a war in Israel, which we're going to talk about that, and global chaos almost immediately. This was well planned. It's well plotted. It all happened under Biden's regime. And I think this is all, I think what we have right now, and what I would tell my father is that it proves that Biden never was running anything. The reason why they wanted Trump out was because Trump wanted to run anything. He wanted to Jerry Jones it, and the powers behind the curtain were like, no, that's not how this works. That's not how the president, we run things. You're just a face, bitch. You're just a face. Biden is proof of that, because we know that this guy is too incompetent. He can't even tie his own shoe. He can't find soft serve ice cream in the White House, as I've heard it said many times by many other commentators. I mean, and he loves ice cream, and he can't find the ice cream, is what I heard one commentator say. So, we know that he's not running things. We know that that's not how it works. And so I do think this is a coordinated attack for global war. Personally, what do you guys think in the chats? Let me know. Am I crazy? Am I hyperbolic? Am I insane? But I did Tanstradamus predict all of this in July. I said July was going to be just insane and incredible, and let the fireworks begin. And we're going to start the fireworks with some of that daily house briefings to really show you guys and paint the picture of just how bad it has become. Josh, what are your thoughts on that so far?
Well, if you're in Europe or you're in the United States, and we talk about why you should be attuned to what's going on, we've been sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. So why would Russia want to attack the United States? We've been sending billions of dollars in military aid and equipment to someone they're actively at war with. We're funding the other side. So if you're at war with somebody, logistically, if you cut the funding off, then they don't have the ability to sustain the war in the long run, and you're going to win. So if they cut the funding off from the United States, if Russia cuts the funding off from Europe, then they're going to win. They're going to get what they want. So we have to understand that we're just these regular citizens and things like that. But these politicians and these people in power are making these decisions that will affect you. They're affecting you at the pump. They're affecting you when you go get gas. They're affecting you at the hospital. They're affecting you every way. But now they're going to affect you when they're taking your sons, they're taking your daughters. They're going to send you to fight somebody else's war on somebody else's soil while they're taking your resources for somebody. This is communism. This is straight up. I'm going to take from you to give to somebody else because it's better. No, that's not how this works. It's just not how this works. But it's scary. It really is scary, because I think we're taking tiny little steps towards that line, and a couple of toes, maybe a couple of hairs on your feet or crossing over that. We're at the line. We're nose to nose with the other person on the other side of the line. We can smell their stinky cigar breath with their crappy coffee on them first thing in the morning. We're that close. That's how close we are to this. If they're trying to hijack planes with nuclear. Why? Because you're going to use that in a weapon system against your adversary. We're scary times here.
And here's the thing too, is it's like we say, like, where's the line in the sand? Like, how far are we willing to go with this and let this go? And I feel like we're all in some way being complacent. Like, we're all nobody has really come to the realization that we're Americans and we can put an end to this. We can physically stop this and tell our government to knock it off and to stop all of the shenanigans, to stop the bullshit. I think the majority see the lie, but the mainstream media, the machine is keeping us ignorant. It's keeping us down. Thank God the spread of information through X and through, TikTok and all these other things, Reddit and some of these various platforms, Rumble, we're able to share information more rapido, and people are able to the people who want the veil to be unlifted, the people who kind of want to be red pilled are starting to see. And I think that's more and more every single day. And it should be only a matter of time that we as a people say, enough's enough, guys. Fuck you. get out and let's start fresh and let's get our country back. And hopefully there are some politicians out there or some people that are becoming politicians or getting into politics with that one goal in mind. This was the Newsweek from 2 days ago. Russia nuclear bomber hijacking attempted thwarted by FSB. Russia's Federal Security Service said that it thwarted an attempt by Ukrainian intelligence to recruit a Russian pilot to hijack a Tu-22M3 supersonic strategic bomber jet. In a statement on Monday, FSB said Ukraine's special service promised the Russian pilot Italian citizenship and money as part of a deal that would see him fly and land a missile carrier in Ukraine. Russia's Tu-22M3 jet, which has the NATO code name Backfire, is described by its designer Tupolev, I don't speak Russian, as a long-range supersonic missile carrier bomber that uses aerial bombs and guided missiles to destroy sea and ground-based targets. Kiev's forces have said the bomber jet is frequently used by Russian troops to attack Ukraine amid the ongoing war. It is capable of bearing Kh-22 cruise missiles that can carry nuclear warheads. So now we've got this whole game of we're trying to use spies and to hijack things, which, you know, that's not uncommon. But again, going back to our government's too stupid to pull stuff off like this. If you haven't been to the Espionage Museum in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, if you haven't seen what the Jedburghs and the OSS was doing or back in World War II, if you think that we have forgotten those tactics, those techniques, remember, guys, you know where the birds aren't real came from? They came from actually finding pigeons that fell out of the sky in Moscow that had cameras inside of the birds, where the birds had cameras. Now, the government, to cover this up, made up this story about birds aren't real, birds aren't fake, to make you feel stupid to talk about this. But that really happened. They also found a dead cat that had recording devices all throughout the cat, that it was kind of like just a cat that was that just hung out around the Kremlin and hung out in the parks, and everybody was kind of familiar with it. Well, this cat ended up getting hit by a car, and they found a transmitting device inside of its body that was exposed after it got smoked by a car. So both sides, America and Russia, remember there was a painting found in the White House. We covered that story a couple of years ago, where that painting had been in the White House for years and years and years, only to now find out that it has been transponding and recording for years in this office. So to say that we're not smart enough, or we're not chess worthy enough, or we're not playing the gambit, that's a again, I don't want to say a lazy way of thinking, but I think it's a sorry excuse. It's a poor excuse, because you don't want to believe these things. You don't want to be red pilled. You want everything to be kind of black and white, and you don't want to think, but you being in the military, you being a police officer, myself being in the military, having sat through some confidential meetings and going into certain secret briefings and things like that. There are things out there that people and civilians really don't have a clue what's going on or how things are working. And then what we do is kind of try to pretend like we know. And when I say that, I mean, it's like I listen to a news source, Breaking Points with Crystal and Sorry. You guys know I'm a big fan, even though they're a pretty left-leaning media source. They do cover news fairly. But when they talk about the war in Ukraine, there's a lot of things that I strongly disagree with it. And it's because they come at it at a point of they just don't know war. They've never been there. One of those things is that they talk about Israel's report on them firing because they're bored, shooting because they're bored. And now they have assumed that they're just shooting people because they're bored. And so they're reporting it's this very hyperbolic war criminal that the Israelis are just indiscriminately shooting into the city because they're bored, and they're killing civilians in this no fire zone. And they make up this grandiose story in their own minds of what that means about shooting because they're bored. We know that it's a recon by fire. We know that they are picking a target. They're picking a piece of concrete that somebody might be behind, and they're putting rounds on that target, A, because they're bored, or B, because they want to see if something shoots back. That is something we have done in Afghanistan. We weren't just indiscriminately shooting into the mountains of Afghanistan. What we would see is a group of military age males, or maybe they were so far away that the binoculars couldn't tell how old they were. And so what we would do is put rounds in a general direction to see how they reacted. Did they get on a radio? Did they take cover and return fire? Did they scatter to the five winds in a non-military tactic manner and just kind of like, what the fuck's going on, to kind of see what are we going, because you don't want to just let them walk through. You can't just let people go unchecked. And here's the thing. If they're good guys, if they just scatter, they're just goat herders, which a lot of times they were. Majority of the times we did recon by fire, they were innocent civilians. We didn't shoot them. They didn't die. Nobody was hurt. But what do you think they're going to go and tell the next guy in the next city that's going to go out on that route? Hey, just to let you know, the Americans are out there on that route and they're shooting at us. They're shooting at us. And so what the Taliban says is like, okay, well, maybe we should hold off on going that direction. Maybe we should come up with a different plan. But the news won't cite that type of behavior. They call it, a war crime, and that they're just killing innocent civilians. Also, one thing that the media doesn't understand in a time of war is that we are not a third world country. We're not a bunch of savages. Now, you put young men into savage situations, savage things will happen. But I wouldn't say that it's just kind of like a free-for-all. You're going to have guys with moral values and ethical values that are going to keep some of these things in check. And there is kind of like a democracy. There's going to be kind of a vote, right? If Josh, John, myself, Tyler, we go to war, Tyler and I might want to start scalping dudes. Josh is probably going to be the guy that says, guys, that's not a good idea. Actually, let me do it in the Josh.
Guys, I don't think that's going to be a good idea, because statistically speaking, they're going to be able to go and use the age of your blade, and they're going to catch us and find out who did it. And so we should probably not use our blades to scalp these guys. John's going to be like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to eat them. Like, I think we should cook them and eat them. And then I'm going to be like, guys, like maybe we just call it off. Like, let's just not do this. And Tyler's going to be like, dude, whatever. I don't care. I'll just do whatever. And then probably more likely than not, nothing is going to happen after a conversation like that, because you don't have just a group of third world Taliban guys who are just like, we should cut their head off. And everybody's like, oh yeah, cut their head off. Yeah. That's not how it works in modern warfare. Can it happen? Sure. Does it happen on a very small level that you're probably never, ever going to get rid of? Yeah. But is it happening on this like grandiose Vietnam style, like let's put pop flares in a chick's pussy and pop it? That stuff, isn't really happening these days. It's not a draft. We're not on psychedelics, it's just that's not how wars ran today. And I think that they report on things like that, and I disagree with it. But also in the same token, what they do report on that is real, and what is concerning, and is a big topic that we have to talk about today, is this Gaza death toll that is around 186,000 casualties in Gaza. That doesn't look really good. Now, my argument to that is your fight is not with these guys indiscriminately firing out of boredom in the towns. It's these bombs that are being placed on massive structures and bringing these structures down, where I think that you use your men and you put your men at risk, and it's going to minimize civilian casualties, because you're going to be able to make on the ground decisions with some kind of a moral compass and a moral base, an ethical base. Bombs don't have morals or ethics. If I push the button and the bomb leaves, the bomb doesn't care if it's a hospital full of children or a hospital in general. The bomb blows it up. It doesn't matter. It does not care. If you take troops into the hospital where you have enemy troops, you then have troops that are going to have a moral and ethical dilemma on whether they want to kill the children, the women, the nurses, the doctors. They're then going to have to decide who's bad, and they're going to have to live with those choices, and you're going to have a lot less civilian casualties. Now, let's just say that one of our allies bombs a hospital this week. How will we report that when it comes to mainstream media? Well, let me just say, this is from the alternative press. New AP analysis. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong one. Oh, yeah, here it is. When you type in Israeli rocket hits hospital, which just happened only a few days ago. New AP analysts of last month's deadly Gaza hospital explosion. 17 explosions at Gaza's Al-Halali hospital. Here's another one, Washington Post. What visual evidence shows about the Gaza hospital blast. Let's go down to Reuters. Human Rights Watch says rocket misfire locally causes explosion at hospital. Middle East crosses Hezbollah rocket hits hospital. Okay, now let's go over to Russia. Russia has a bomb that hit a hospital, and here's how it's reported from the AP. Russian missile attacks kill 31 people, injuring children at a children's hospital 2 days ago. Russia strikes children's hospital in Kiev. No words for this horror from The Guardian over Russia bombing of Kiev hospital. Russia bombed children's hospitals as missiles killed dozens. Russia strike. What? So look at the reporting here, guys. Well, we have allies that are using rockets that are blowing up hospitals, which is the same thing that's happening over in Russia. But we've made Russia the war criminals. We've made Putin a war criminal, but we're indiscriminately doing the same fucking thing in the same place. And then you wonder why we have so many political activists. Now, me as a warrior, me as a former soldier, I understand that war is hell and shit has to happen. I almost don't believe in war crimes unless it's just so egregious and so over the top and so provable and probable. Then you can start charging war crimes. But I think when you put savage men into savage positions, savage things are going to happen. And those wouldn't happen elsewise had they not been in that situation. I don't have a problem with taking scalps. I don't have a problem with walking by and killing dudes on the way through your line of advancement because I don't have a problem with handcuffing somebody to a post and they just happen to be blown up when we're destroying evidence and they were just sitting too close to the blast. Those things need to happen because those guys we're going to go back and give your location. War is hell. And if you want to win war, you're going to have to do heinous and war crime type things. When I went to basic training, for example, I remember specifically that one of my drill sergeants had us all lined up and he says, has anybody here ever thought about committing a war crime? And everybody got real wide-eyed and kind of was trying to look left and right, even though we were standing at attention looking forward. And nobody wanted to answer the question. He was like, I hope to God every one of you has fantasized at least once about committing a fucking war crime because that's the kind of fucking warriors that we need. You know what I mean? Imagine saying some shit like that today. So again, the media right now, in this very media war, is non-journalistic media that's a propaganda-based media has everybody confused. And now it's all starting to come to light because of podcasters, because of people exposing this kind of behavior. Go look for it yourself. Go look, just type in any kind of war crime that Putin is being accused of and type in that same war crime as it relates to Israel and Pakistan, and you will see that Israel is doing the same thing. I am still pro-Israeli. I am anti-Hamas. If I could change one thing about this war, I would say let's put more troops on the ground in Gaza and let troops work it out and stop with these crazy bombs and these crazy missiles. I know that a human life is worth more, but isn't an innocent Hamas or an innocent, not Hamas, but a Gaza civilian, if there is the chance that there are some innocent Gaza civilians in the midst over there, wouldn't it be fair? Isn't their life worth it too? And I think that I think going away from a more bomb-driven war and a war by attrition and putting men on the ground and being strategic is an important part of warfare that we've kind of gotten lazy and kind of forgotten. Now we just bomb it all into submission. And I think we're beyond that. I think technology, I think body armor and things is beyond the need for that. So I would say that there are some protests that are warranted for this. But I think the people deserve to know that this behavior is going on. And if you're falling into the camp of I'm 100 pro Israel and I'm 100% anti Putin when it comes to war crimes, you can kind of see why the world would hate us. You're not going to win over an enemy when you are calling them war criminals and you're making up names for them and you're doing the same thing. That's not good for a global conflict resolution. You have to be aware.
Well, you and I have both been in the war. We've both been to combat, and I'm assuming you've played sports. I wrestled. I played soccer before that when I was in high school. So we understand that, say you got someone sitting on the other side of the classroom and they start spitting spitballs at you. Eventually, you're going to have to get up and go over there and tell them to stop spitting spitballs at you. You're going to take the straw away from You're going to have to stop them from being able to do this. But the only way to do that is you have to go over there and do that. So in this war with Ukraine, in this war with Gaza, the only way to do that is take the war to them. We're not going to do that, because if we take the war to them, then it's over. We just spent the last 20 years now in Iraq and Afghanistan. WikiLeaks showed that has been nothing but a funnel of money just to anybody else but the Afghans, anybody else but the Iraqis, anybody else but Americans, unless you're a politician or you have stake in some company. As soon as that stopped, there needed to be something else. Now we have Ukraine. Well, people are starting to call that bullshit out. So now we've got Gaza. People are starting to call that bullshit out. Where's the next one at? Where's the next war that people are going to go die? We're going to go take our soldiers and go die. We're going to take our money and go spend it for what? That's the question I have. If we're going to send our US dollars to Ukraine and this, why? They're not a part of NATO. They're not doing anything for us. There's no reciprocation on this relationship. It's not like Ukraine's going to come down here and start sweeping streets of New York.
No, we have to protect our pharmaceutical testing labs that are divvied out.
That would be it.
Yeah,
that would be it.
Well, before we jump into all the stories about the panic at the White House, which is the story of the day, this earlier first 30-minute rant was more of just me getting this Gaza stuff off the chest, because I do feel empathy for civilians, but I also understand war. And I feel like the media does not, and journalists are dead. And even the really good journalists that are boots on ground, they have in their mind, they have such an agenda going into things that they're only trying to find evidence that stacks up to what they were wanting to find in the first place. So when you are a journalist on the ground, and I guarantee you they're not sitting by these soldiers who are putting rounds out of boredom downrange, so they don't know. They're not talking to those soldiers. All they're doing is they're boots on the ground, but they're with the higher echelons. They're in these like meeting areas. They're not kind of out in these firing bases, these forward operating areas. And so what they're reporting on is they hear this and then they spin it to what they want to hear it, and they talk about them killing civilians. Are civilians going to die in things like this? Sure, because you're going to make mistakes. But they're not mistakes out of, I want to kill somebody that's innocent. What they are is, these people have known they're not supposed to be there, because they are, right? They was the Hannibal Act or whatever, I forgot what it was now. But Google it for me really quick, where they pretty much put out there that, like, if you're a military age male and you're here in this area, you're not supposed to be here, and we're going to take you as an enemy, and we're probably going to fucking kill you. I've got no problem. But even in that instance, it's not like you have a free fire zone. They might say you're free to fire on these guys, but even again, you have this moral and ethics. You have people that have Christian values, Muslim values, that have religious values, that are not going to just be like, hey, look at that farmer, that bread maker that's walking around with 6 baguettes hanging out of his basket. I'm going to shoot him for fun. It's not how it works. Did you find something about the Hannibal?
No, I was seeing where Russia, I couldn't find anything specifically for Hannibal stuff.
Okay.
Navy sailor tried to access Biden's records.
Oh, it's always the Navy. That's always the Navy. Wasn't the one chick with the WikiLeaks? She was from the Navy too, right? The guy girl, or she the Army?
He was Army first.
He was Army.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Misspoken again. You know what? It's hard to sleep with all this on your brain. It's hard to compartmentalize all this on your brain. And people say, well, how does this not keep you awake at night? How is all the things you've done as a first responder, as a soldier, as a podcaster, trying to podcast 5 days a week and retain all this information and write? How do you sleep at night? I do it very simply, because I do it on a ghost bed. GhostBed has been a loyal sponsor of my shows for the last 4 or 5 years. Ever since I started with GhostBed, when I started with Drinking Bros Sports Tailgate Legends show, believe it or not, when I did a sports show, even a guy who hates sports and knows nothing about it, when I did that awesome sports show with different celebrities every weekend, GhostBed has been there beside me. When I did Failure to Stop with Mike the Cop before we were at Network, GhostBed was there with me. When I was when I met Conservative Ant and we started working on Conservative Anthony projects, GhostBed was there. Anti-Hero Podcast, GhostBed was there. This is a company who supports undoubtedly
They support, they're patriotic about it. They love first responders. They love veterans. And they're an American-made bed company, the best beds in the world, the only beds with this cooling technology. They have the healing copper stuff sewn throughout it. I've been to their warehouse. I've been to their laboratory where they invent these things. I have gone to their, when they toured us down in Florida, customer service. And the funny thing is the owner, Rich from Ghostbed, his family members work in each department. He has, I think it was his son who goes to college and works in the customer service department. He's got other family members that work in the research and development. His wife came up with this curly hair pillowcase for women with curly hair, which my wife is obsessed with because my wife has naturally curly hair and it doesn't damage their hair. And she used to have to sleep with one of those weird silky things on her head, but now they have a pillowcase just for it. So absolutely huge fans of Ghost Beds, the massage topper right now, 50% off for everybody. It's always like that for you guys. Please just go to ghostbed.com. It is a wonderful gift that people aren't expecting. Father's Day gifts, Mother's Day gifts, Valentine's Day gifts, 4th of July gifts, birthday gifts, just treat yourself gifts, as they say on Parks and Rec. Head over to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Get you that 50% off at ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Also, how do I stay so lean and mean and clean? It's because I eat Factor meals at factor75.com. Promo code 50. Go to factormeals.com/Wolfpack50 for 50% off. These are meals ready to eat, chef prepared, fresh, never frozen, delivered right to your door. We're talking calorie conscious. You can do 550 calories and below. You can do protein heavy, 50 grams of protein and more. You can do vegan, vegetarian. I always say it. Stop driving to the grocery store, walking around, trying to get your kids to stop putting shit in the grocery cart. We all know how annoying that is. No, you're not getting that. If I have to tell you again, I'm going to beat your ass right in front of everyone, blah, 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 blah. And then getting home and having to cook all of these things, find the Tupperware dish, having an anxiety attack because you can't find the fucking lid to this right dish. Like, how do I have 500 circular lids, but I have 60,000 rectangular dishes? Like, how do I have more rectangle dishes but I have more circular lids? It drives me absolutely nuts. And then you walk out the back door and you just start slinging circular lids like Frisbees all over the yard because you don't want to see another circular lid because you don't own any circular dishes. I'm not saying that's ever happened to me, but what I'm saying is if you are a meal planner, this might be something you have come across, and Factor Meals takes all of that away. They come pre-dished right to your front door. They have this Nordic ice and listen, by the time all that cost and time that you spent doing all that bullshit, the cost is an exact wash of getting these Factor Meals. You stack them up in your refrigerator. You don't have to think about it. Now you got more time for family, more time for court prep, more time for all that first responder bullshit. Like your firefighters, they got more time to work out and clink and go to the, whatever, do whatever firefighters do, try on lingerie, all those things. You have more time to do those things because you have already meal prepped. You already have a plan in place on how you're going to lose weight or gain weight or have your breakfast supplied to you. I have a banker that I got turned on I turned on a banker. Let's just leave it at that. I turned on a banker. I gave a banker some of my Factor Meals. They are now forever Factor Meal fans. They carry Factor Meals. They say this is the best way to get through my day as a banker because they don't smell bad. They're not weird. They don't get a lot of time to break. They're clean. They're easy. They can throw them right away. So go to factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Get you 50% off. All right, let's get into the meat of today's debate. Really hard week for Jean-Pierre, Gouderay, Jean-Luc Picard, Karine, Pierre. By the way, she's getting a little bit of that weight gain since she's got into office. It's not the healthy weight gain. It's a stress weight gain. I'm not trying to fat shame anybody here. She's beautiful. To be honest with you, she's got beautiful hair. I've never thought Pierre, John, Picard, Luke has ever been ugly, but I know what stress weight gain looks like. And she's starting to get that. And that's why I say I felt sorry for her. I feel bad for her. But in the same token, when you lie like this to the American people and you know you're lying like this to the American people, it makes it hard for me to feel bad for you. I love when they compare her to, what is it? Was it the Wayans brothers? When they put on the weight, was it when they were doing who was it? It was a Saturday Night Live skit, but anyway, they compare her to those comedians. I hate bringing things up that I can't substantiate. I apologize for that. We all know what happened at the debate, and we all know that everybody kind of feels like By the way, if anybody in the chats knows what I'm talking about, help us out. Was it the Wayans brothers that did the skit where they put on the wig and the lipstick and they're like making that same exact face that Josh just put up there? I think it's fair to say that everybody knows at this point that Joe Biden is suffering from neurological, some kind of issue, whether it be dementia, Parkinson's, whatever. We all know it. If
Something.
They know it's something, right? We're not that stupid. Now you're treating us like we're that stupid. And thank God that there are some journalists out there. God, I hate calling them journalists. There are some media folks out there that are being told to report on this and to push her for the answers because they need to save the. Here's my conspiracy theory on this whole thing. Biden is sick. We know he's sick. And if they admit that he's sick now, then they will have to admit that he's been sick for a very long time. And they're also going to have to admit that he has been in charge of nuclear codes and this global conflict that we're caught up in currently. They're also going to have to explain how he is going to run the country for the next 7 months. If it is in fact that he is brain dead and brain mush, they are going to have a lot of explaining to do of how long have they been covering this up. So I think it's split between the aisle as like, how the Democratic Party is like, let's save the Democratic Party. Let's save our own asses. And the other party's like, fuck no, man. Like, we're all going to go to, like, this is all like some serious shit. Like, we're going to all have to explain to the American people why we lied for a whole however many years this has been going on, because it's not like this guy just developed dementia overnight. Now you're talking about you've had neurological exams. We're about to show you where this is all coming to light in these press conferences. You've had these exams, you've had these neurologists, you've had these Parkinson's experts coming to the White House, and you're just now in July telling us that, like, because we saw it in the debate, because you got caught. So that is where the Democrat Party is right now. They have been caught. They have been outed. And now everybody's trying to save face. I don't think that the media is anti-Biden anymore. I don't think that they were ever anti or pro-Biden. I think that they were just told who that they had to report on and how they had to report on these people. And they're doing the same thing now. I do think it is hilarious, but I want to show you guys the frustration right now in House Democrats, in the Democratic Party. Right now, you have to go out and vote, right? Everybody thought Clinton was going to lose to George Bush because Clinton was a draft dodger and Bush was a war hero and everything. Well, we saw how that kind of turned out when Clinton actually made it into office, being the dirtbag and the piece of shit that he was. House Democrats right now are in a full, but you have to get out and vote. But I think I think what now we can say is that if you're a Democrat right now, you pretty much are convinced that nobody has won with polls this low. Nobody has ever won an election. So it's safe to say that in their eyes, Trump is going to be the next president. And that's scaring them to death. But what I think is scaring them even more now is that there are a lot of things that they have to account for with this whole dementia thing, and they don't know what to do. And so it's split down the aisle. I was going through this deep dive here, and I found out that remember the old Utah congressman? What was his name? Was it George? The guy that said that Guam was going to capsize. They just interviewed him this week. He was in this House Democrat meeting of the minds that was a quote unquote family meeting, and we don't disclose family heir. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry that the fate of this country is a family matter. We don't get to know about it. That's absolute dog shit. What was his name?
Hank Johnson.
Hank Johnson. Fuck, I don't know how I forget that. I made fun of Hank Johnson. If you really want to be entertained, look up Hank Johnson. Guam could capsize. One of my favorite all time. By the way, like I think he tested positive, or at least they had enough evidence that shows that he was, and then he ended up admitting to being on some kind of prescription pills during that, which, you know, this guy's a fucking lunatic. He's still in it. He was in this meeting. I was blown away when I saw when they were interviewing these guys coming out of the meeting, which, you know, a lot of these House Democrats, they were, and they were split kind of down the middle. They were like, yeah, we back Biden, or no, we don't back Biden, as I'm about to show you. But Hank Johnson come on there and he's like, oh, I think we're more together than ever. Hank Johnson being the biggest fucking idiot of all time in politics. And I don't say that lightly. This guy is a fucking moron. This guy was afraid that if too many people were on the island of Guam, that it could capsize. And he asked the naval, the chief naval expert in a House committee meeting if in fact Guam could tip over if too many sailors or soldiers were on one side of the island. That's how fucking moronic this guy is. It was hard for him not to laugh. Please go back and watch the YouTube video. It's one of the most embarrassing political moments I've ever laid my eyes on. But the fact that he's coming out of there and saying like, oh, we've never been as united as we are, like, get the fuck out of here, Hank Johnson. You're an idiot. Now, Steve Cohen, he's always been very blunt, and this is kind of the way he talks in general. So I was glad to see them, put the microphones in his face as well, but they put the microphones in every single person that left out of there's face, and everybody was divided. Some were like extremely pro Biden in this, and some people were like Steve Cohen here.
Are you all on the same page?
No. What do you mean you're not on the same page? You're not even in the same book.
So here is House Democrat Steve Cohen from Tennessee. Reporters say, are you guys on the same page after this family meeting, as they call it, which bothers me? And he says, we're not even in the same book. We're not even in the same book. So this is just absolute insanity. Let me go through these really quick. This is Karine, Pierre, Jean-Pierre, Luke Picard, whatever you want to call her. I'm not going to play all of it, but there is a lot. I think the American people need to pay attention. I think you as a first responder need to pay attention to what's going on in these press briefings and how panicked the White House really is.
Share people's names from here, but the president, I can tell you, has seen a neurologist 3 times, as it's connected to a physical that he gets every year that we provide to all of you.
That's a very basic, direct question.
Wait, hold on, wait a second.
8 times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
That's what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please. So every year around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you.
And it really doesn't go much further from there. Let's fast forward to the next day. Well, here, let me just go on to this CNN. I'm sorry.
Do some answers here. Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No. So those are the things that I can give you full-blown answers on, but I'm not going to confirm a specialist, any specialist that comes to the White House out of privacy.
Now, the funny thing about this is that it's public record, and his name is already in the books that he's been there. That's where this whole story came from. Multiple visits by Parkinson's expert to White House weren't for Biden, doctors say. Now, this was a whole, we know his name, but she's refusing to say his name for security reasons, even though it's everywhere.
But Dr. Kevin Kennard,
yeah. And then there was another one too. But when I was going through SEER school, and you're talking about being a government detainee, they teach us to talk in circles and to try to talk as long as you can in circles without giving any information. Jean-Pierre, Luke Picard is an expert at that. So she'll latch on to the fact that if anybody gives a fuck what this guy's name is, and she goes in circles with it for a very long period of time, for almost a whole press briefing. So it's a very great stalling tactic, but she'll keep circling back on this one thing that's not the question they're answering. But so you'll say, so he met with this doctor. What were the findings of? I'm not going to talk about the doc. I'm not going to say his name. We're not going to talk about the doctor's name. We're not going to, that is for security purposes. I have told you he's seen a neurologist 3 times. I'm not going to tell you who's, and they're all like, okay. And she'll do this for 5 minutes. It's very annoying. And I actually did play this one. Just watch
every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're
Dr.
asking
Kevin
me.
Kennard, come to the White House.
But I also said to you, Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names. We have to.
Others he would have met with.
We cannot.
You can share names.
No.
Right. They can share names with anybody else that he's met with,
but you can't. And so what he's saying is, did Dr. Kennard come here to treat Joe Biden? That's the question. Did he come here to treat Joe Biden for something, for neurological? So because he's a Wayne says Jen Psaki was the original circle back girl, but at least but at least she would say, let's circle back. Well, I'll circle back on that. She just wouldn't answer it. Like, we'll just circle back on. Yep. Jean-Pierre uses the tactic of talking in circles, where she'll talk about one thing and she'll keep going on that and waste time. Instead of saying, I'm not going to release names, next question, what she'll do is try to take up the time and go into this massive long explanation. So this was the next day. This was July 9th, which was yesterday. And this is her coming back and having to answer after this White House publication came out. And now she's having to say, like, oopsies. Here we go.
Clarification on the letter that was sent last night.
Sure, absolutely.
From Dr. O'Connor. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't seem to explicitly describe the nature of Dr. Kennard's meeting with Dr. O'Connor. So can you say whether that one meeting was related to care for the president himself?
I can say that it was not.
It was not. Okay, that's great. And can I just ask why that information that was released last night just wasn't said at the briefing yesterday?
Well, no, actually, a lot of what is in the letter was said at the briefing, to be very, very clear. I said many of the things that were laid out in the letter was actually repeated right here behind this lectern at this podium yesterday. It was what
said that.
Hold on, I said many of the things, and we got clarification.
Lots of talking in circles here.
Clarification, obviously, from Dr. O'Connor, but
so now we can say his name.
With what I said when I said only 3, right? I said only 3 visits that this particular doctor had. I said a neurologist. What I was not able to confirm is the name, and the reason why is because we do not share private information. That is something that we respect, and we wanted to make sure that we protected our consultants here that work with the White House Medical Unit, their security as well. And so that is the one thing that I was not able to confirm. Obviously, Dr. O'Connor's letter confirms that, but we had to get permission from Dr. Kennard and also the president in order to put that information. And it is not normal. And that also states that in Dr. O'Connor. But many of the things that I said right here at this podium is in the letter.
And can I just also ask a little, this is the second time in less than a week where the briefing had prompted a need for later clarification on questions about the president's health. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to...
So I disagree. Sungmin. It's not. Yesterday, a lot of the things that I said right here in this briefing room, I know you were not in the briefing room, it's in the letter. It was in the letter. It was being incorrectly assumed and insinuated that the president had seen Dr. Kennard more than 3 times. I said that it was only 3 times that the president had seen a neurologist. I didn't confirm the name, but I did say it was only 3 times. It was being incorrectly assumed and insinuated that the president was being treated for Parkinson's. I said right here that the president was not being treated for Parkinson's. I actually went a step further and said he wasn't taking medication for Parkinson's. I said that right here. It was also being assumed and insinuated that Dr. Kennard was someone who only worked on Parkinson's when in fact he's a general neurologist. That was something that Dr. O'Connor was actually able to confirm, that he was a general neurologist, not in fact a general neurologist. And we also wanted to we just wanted to set the record straight. And so, you know, it is important. We believe it was important to all of you. I actually even said here at the podium, if there was more information that we could provide.
So the funny thing is I believe the neurologist part, he is a general neurologist. I think we're all getting caught up on the Parkinson's thing just because he happens to have a specialty in Parkinson's. He's a neurologist expert, and you have a neurologist expert meeting with the president several times in a short amount of time. Now, somebody says, to be fair, that he did meet with the same neurologist, met with Obama and with somebody else. I forget I think it was my first. Bush and Obama as well.
How would we know that, Eric? Because it's the White House's position that they don't release that information. So historically, we wouldn't have known that. Or historically, we have released that information. And now for this presidency, we're just not going to do anything the way we have been in the past. Obama's doctor is Dr. Ronnie Jackson. George Bush's doctor is Dr. Richard Tubb. Bill Clinton's doctor is Dr. Stewart, and Dr. Ornish is his heart surgeon. How did I find that out?
Let me tell you why this is. this is retarded, Mur 530, like why this whole thing has been retarded, is July 3rd, President Biden signed a Parkinson's bill into law. You think that Biden just decided in July that Parkinson's was really, really important to him, and that he's going to pass a bill and have it worked up in July, just after this just terrible, like this terrible debate. And then all of a sudden, then the media releases that a Parkinson's doctor, or do you think it's more probable that the media leaked that they knew that he had been meeting with a Parkinson's doctor, and they were like, we probably should come up with something before this news is released that doesn't make this look as bad. And so they come up with this Parkinson's bill that was probably something that was supposed to be way down under the wraps and was like not even.
So when you Google it, Eric cut out there. So when you Google it, you would Google Biden Parkinson's instead of getting all of these news articles of showing that, hey, we've got this doctor visiting on this day. We've got this doctor visiting on this day. We got this doctor visiting on this day. You'll see Biden and the Parkinson's stuff for the bill that he's put out. The other thing is here, Eric's calling
Josh,
in.
Can you hear me?
I can start to hear you coming back.
I lost all power.
Oh, okay.
All the lights are out. The whole house, everything is no power. So can you hear me on microphone? Is it just on?
I can barely hear you on mic. It's coming back and forth.
Okay, so you're gonna have to finish the show. There's 4 minutes left of the show.
Okay.
Carry it out for me.
Yep, I got you. I'll get his out. So he's visited the White House. So here's the other thing. When she keeps doing this whole circle around and says he's been there 3 times. Well, yeah, he has been there 3 times, but they're not talking about the 3 times that he's been there over the, during the visits that he has, his annual visits. We're not talking about annual visits because those are things that happen annually. Those are things that we know about. We're talking about the 8 times that he's visited in the last 8 times in the last 8-month period that he's been dealing with this stuff. The other thing that's been going on is we have, real quick before we get out of here, the SAVE Act. So all of this we got to worry about going into election season. So all of the Democrats we're not even on the same book. We're not even the same, not even on the same page, not even the same book. This is why, because they have to get their plan together because they realize that for the past however many years, in the last couple of months leading up to this debate, the media has done nothing but push and prop up Biden as he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. It's no issues whatsoever. This is not a problem. This isn't something this is normal. This is perfectly fine. You got nothing to worry about. Absolutely nothing. This is absolutely normal. Then you get to this debate, and not only do we take away the audience, we take away the mics, we turn off the mics, we have time limits, we have all these rules, we take away the press, we try to make it as easy as possible for him to do this debate. And then he still ends up going out there looking like someone trying to come up the hill with one of their legs tied behind their head. It's just not going to happen. So now you have the media rolling out. They're like, oh, now we're in panic mode. The guy that we were backing, we're not able to back him anymore. So you've got all this stuff going on. So earlier this week, today, they should be voting on it today. They've already said that they're going to veto it. The SAVE Act. So what this act is going to do is that what it's basically saying is saying that if you're going to vote in the United States federal elections, you have to be a United States citizen, period. That's it. We have laws on the books and things like that, but some states will have their own ways of doing things. This just clarifies that if you are going to vote in the United States elections, that you have to be U.S. citizens. And that not only did the Democrats come out, the White House already came out and said, if this goes through, we're going to veto it. So what is that telling you? That's telling you that the last 4 years, we have brought in 10, 15 million of illegal immigrants that we're now going to go ahead and say that we don't care where they vote. We want to preserve our elections. We want to preserve our elections. But we want to make sure we don't want to really preserve it, really, because we're going to say that it's going to disenfranchise people. Well, is that not racist to just automatically assume that saying that somebody needs an ID to vote and you're just going to go ahead and disenfranchise a group of people based on their race? That's pretty racist to me if you're just talking out loud. So we've got the SAVE Act. And the other big thing that's going around, I'm going to pull up a website. and this is the last 2 minutes here. If you want to talk about election interference and problems with the election and things that are going on, there was this Project 25 that's going around Twitter, going around the internet, and going around everything. You want to know where this is coming from? I will pull it up so you can see the joebiden.com/Project 25. So this is on Joe Biden's website. This is Joe Biden. This is their team. This is what they have put out. They're putting out this as if it is being put out by Donald Trump. They have the Trump, the font that he uses, the way that he to his press releases, the way that he does the stars at the top with the red lines around the box around it, the way that it's set up. They're toting this out as if it's factual information that Donald Trump is putting this out, that Donald Trump's team's putting this out, when in fact, it's the complete opposite. This is propaganda put out by the Joe Biden administration. This is ridiculous. This has been put on Twitter. I seen this going around Twitter yesterday, and I didn't know if we were going to touch on it or not because I didn't know how true it was. And then this morning I searched it, and absolutely this comes up, joebiden.com/Project 25. So if you pull this up or you see all this stuff being shared, it's not being shared by Trump. It's being shared by Joe Biden. It's not, this is just, it's election interference. We have so many things going on. Also, that happened this week, we had a hurricane hit landfall in Texas. I think the death toll is up to 6, which is incredible for a massive hurricane. We are just a decade or so ago when we had Katrina and the amount of people that have died over the years in severe weather when these big events happen. So we've got these things landfall now. We've only got 6 death tolls. We're making a difference there. So I do believe tomorrow, I don't know exactly what time yet. I didn't get to talk with Eric a little bit beforehand. I do believe tomorrow we have Kyle Rittenhouse coming on to talk about just being Kyle. You got him coming on to talk about Kyle, Keith, and John pre-recorded. So you still will have an illegal shift tomorrow as well. And then Friday, Tyler and Eric are going to break down. I'm not sure if I'm going to be on or not, but Tyler talked about there's the video of the guy on a traffic stop, and it's in the red car, and he's got a gun on his waist or gun on his lap, and the police officer tells him to stop reaching for it, and he keeps reaching for it, and he shoots him pretty much point blank. That video is going around, so that's the video. I think that's the one that we're going to cover Friday. Yeah, we're here at the end. Usually have Eric to help me close it out. Go to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Use promo code Wolfpack to get 50% off. Factor Meals, factor75.com. And promo code Wolfpack will get you 50% off. Do something nice for someone. Say hi to your neighbor. Touch some grass. Sports will be on Thursday. John's awesome. And I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.